Okay. Well, I just know she's recording. So. All right. Can everyone hear me? All right. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and get started. We do have quorum, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. Just want to say good morning, everybody. I'm glad that you could be here. So we will now call this meeting to order. There's a couple of things that I do want to do right off the cuff here. If you're a board member, we would like you to make sure that you have your camera on. It's easier so that we can see you when it comes to voting on matters. So please, if you are a board member, turn the camera on. I'd also ask that if you do make a motion, please state your name. Again, that's for my benefit, probably more than anybody, just so that we know who's speaking. The virtual meetings, it's a little hard to tell. So if you'll state your name when you make a motion. All right. We have a number of guests with us here today, both virtually and here in the room. So I'd like to take a moment just to point out some of those folks and recognize them. One of the visitors we have today is the Kentucky Labor Secretary, Jamie Link, and he will be joining us shortly. We also have John Pendergrass, who's the Acting Executive Director with Career Development Center or Office. We have a few of our local elected officials with us. We have Judge Choate from Hart County, Judge Barnes from Simpson, Judge Fleener from Butler County, and we also have Mayor Hughes here with us as well. So I want to welcome all of those here. Glad that you could be part of this, this meeting. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to, well, the first thing we need to do is everybody should have received a copy of the minutes from the last meeting in October. Hopefully you've had time to review that. If so, is there any corrections or any clarifications that need to be made to those meeting minutes? Does anybody have any questions about the minutes? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the October meeting?
Beverly Ford, and I'll make that motion.
Well, thank you, Beverly. Do I have a second?
It's Melissa Mudd. I second.
Thank you, Melissa. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, we have approved the minutes for the October meeting. With that, I'm going to turn this over to our president and CEO for his opening remarks.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see everybody. It's good to gather again for our final board meeting of the year. I'd like to welcome all of our guests. Secretary Link is on a call with the governor. He should be stepping in here in just a few minutes. We've got John Pendergrass, we've got Judge Choate, Mayor Hughes, Judge Fleener, Judge Barnes, and Judge Buchanan just walked in to join us. So we appreciate everybody's attendance to today's board meeting. So last December, at our December board meeting, we presented to the board a year in review, and in that presentation, we highlighted significant activities that we had accomplished in 2020, and we used a combination of data and storytelling to present that information. And we're going to do that again today. But coming out of last year's presentation, at that point in time, I was still working for Robert. I was really unhappy with our data collection. I realized we did not have good data collection standards as a young organization. So I kind of spent the holiday period putting in place some data collection standards and a methodology for the team to collect data. Yeah, and when I say that, there's certain data we've always had to collect because it's Department of Labor, policy, and that's never been an issue in collecting that type of data. But that data is very limited. It doesn't paint the full picture and scope of what we do as an organization. And so that's what I wanted to do when I revised kind of our data collection standards. And so, out of that, we came into January and we set forth a data collection plan and a methodology that we followed all year long. And today is kind of the culmination of that. So every month, on a monthly basis, we've come together as a team to turn in our data and take a look at it and really try to capture and measure, better capture and measure the full scope of what we've done as an organization. So you're going to see that today. Once we get into the latter half of this presentation. What we're going to combine with that data, like we did last year, is we also want to do some storytelling. We've got, we're going to kind of show you 9 different faces today and tell their stories, and they're basically symbolic of the work that this team does day in and day out throughout the year. It's really what makes this work rewarding. So we're gonna show you some data, but we're gonna tell you some stories. And then the last thing I'll just kind of say here is that as we get into this presentation, we're gonna try to provide you some comparison data to 2020. But like I said, in 2020, we didn't collect good data. So I don't have a lot of data comparison a year. In a lot of cases, I don't have year-to-year comparisons I can make, but where I do, we'll present that to you, just so you have a point of comparison for it. This time again next year, we'll, as long as we stick to the same data collection methodology, we'll be able to compare 2022 to 2021 next year. So we're moving in the right direction on that. I guess the last note on that, and this comes up daily, weekly, it comes up frequently, that at the end of the day, the question we're always asked is, how many people got jobs? That's what everybody wants to know, and rightfully so. And I will say that is oftentimes the very hardest thing for us to capture and measure. We see a lot of people, a lot of it's very transactional, where they come in, we provide them a little bit of assistance, and they move on. We work with a lot of companies. We support job fairs and hiring events, but we often don't find out the results from either the job seeker or the employer on the back end. I mean, you try to capture it, but sometimes there's a lag in hiring. Sometimes, you just don't get that feedback. Joe Q. Sisson has no obligation to report back to us if they got a job 3 weeks after we help them, unless we're intensively case managing them under WIOA. In that case, we're tying them into reporting back to us, and even then it can be challenging. But for the majority of people that we touch, it's very transactional, and you often don't get the fruits of your labor. You don't find out the fruits of your labor. But where we can, we're going to present that data to you. But I would say that data that we present in terms of folks that found employment is it's what we know, which we don't know the full picture, and that there are probably more people that got jobs than we can accurately report. So anyway, I like to provide that context, because when you get right down to it, that's what people want to know: how many people got jobs. And it's unfortunately, this is messy space, and sometimes that's kind of the hardest data point for us to chase down and capture, but we try. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to our chairman for the next agenda item.
All right. Again, I want to welcome everybody here. I'm glad you could be a part of this. It's very important. In earlier correspondence from Deronda, the board members should have received a meeting attendance report. I just want to hit on that a little bit. I want to stress the importance of the attendance of the board members. We don't meet extremely frequently. And so if we do not have a quorum, it kind of puts our actionable items on hold. And some of these things are time sensitive. So it creates a little bit of a problem for us. So I want to just encourage everybody to take a look at that, to make sure that you are attending the meetings as much as humanly possible. The other thing I want to point out too, keep in mind that according to our bylaws, if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, you can be removed from the board as a member. And that's clearly not what we're trying to accomplish here, because we want people to be involved and to be a part of this and want to work with you on this. So, but we do want to stress the importance of being here so that we can address in a timely fashion the items that are actionable that we need to take care of within the board meeting itself. So with that, I'm going to give an executive meeting update. We had our last executive meeting on November the 11th. We had a number of items that we addressed. It was a very busy meeting. We had 7 items in which we had to vote on. So I'm going to kind of go through these. Excuse me, my allergies are killing me. The executive committee approved an update to the WIOA on-the-job policy to strengthen the program management and administrative standards, particularly as they pertain to timesheets, pay stubs, reimbursements, and the like, and updated record-keeping requirements to bring the policy in line with the state's on-the-job training policy. The next item that we took care of was the committee reviewed and approved a case notes policy to provide case note standards for our WIOA career advisors who are charged with keeping detailed record for the participants that they case manage. The committee also approved the addition of a remote work policy, as well as an updated vacation time and federal holiday policies in the Workforce Development Board Employment Handbook. The executive committee also reviewed and approved the 2022 health insurance plan for the board staff. And the last thing was the executive committee voted to approve a role change for communications and outreach position. The role change has changed from a full-time to a part-time position. And with that change, the title has changed from VP of Communications and Outreach to Director of Communications. So that was changed at the last executive meeting as well. The other thing that we addressed is we did, for information, cover some changes to, proposed changes to the South Central Workforce Development Board bylaws. And with that, I'm going to turn that over to John, and he's going to discuss that item.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So yes, today we're bringing to you for action today two proposed changes to our board bylaws. On November 3rd, our governance committee met to review and vote on a number of changes to local policies, employment handbook, and the bylaws. The governance committee, voted on those 6 things and they moved those forward. So four of those actions they voted on, the policies and the employment handbook changes, were then taken into the executive committee, as Mr. Chairman just noted, and voted on and approved. The bylaws changes, per our bylaws the bylaws can only be changed by this body. And so what I'm going to present to you today are two additions to the bylaws for your consideration and vote. The first is at the top of this slide that you see before you, is to add a board member emeritus position. A board member emeritus is a former board member that served with distinction. And as you can see on the screen, we're proposing that we can have up to 3 emeritus positions. And these folks would each have to be nominated and elected by our chief local elected official. An emeritus would serve up to a 3-year term. The emeritus do not vote. Their attendance does not affect quorum, and they don't hold any offices in terms of, on our governance committee, youth committee, or so forth. They're really there to, they're folks with a lot of familiarity with what we do. They want to be involved, and they can be there to help guide and mentor the board on board matters. So that's the first change to the bylaws we proposed. And the second one there on the bottom half of your screen is that we really want to strengthen the language around the president's position. Earlier this summer, we were reviewing kind of the authority of my position in the bylaws and our employment handbook and our policies. And as we looked at the bylaws, what you see is the unhighlighted section there. There's 2 sentences that are unhighlighted. That's what our current bylaws say. So it doesn't say a lot about, about the position and role of the president. And so what we proposed to do was add a couple of sentences there that are highlighted in yellow to really strengthen and further define and describe the role of the president of the organization. So the governance committee, approved both of these. We presented it to the executive committee the next week for information only, and now we present it to the full board today for a vote. So with that, I'll turn it over to our chairman.
Is there anyone that has any questions concerning these changes to the bylaws? All right.
Is there another change?
No, I believe it was just the 2 changes.
John, it's Regina Jackson. Is there also a change in section 3 of that same Article 7 staff? It's highlighted where it says the executive committee shall evaluate the performance of the president annually and establish his or her compensation at that time.
Yes.
Sorry, we overlooked that one.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
So do we need to cover that again? I mean, that was very quick.
I have a question. At one time we had talked about some changes in our like discipline policy. So is that going to be separate from this?
Gretchen, that would be contained within the employment handbook. That would not be our.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, I was getting confused on the laws versus the handbook. So, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So do you need a motion?
I do.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept these 2 proposed updates to the bylaws.
Actually, there are 3.
Oh, 3. Oh, yes, 3, including the one just brought up. So I move that we approve all 3 updates to the bylaws.
Thank you, Gretchen. Do I have a second?
This is Cassie Seltzer. I'll second.
Thank you, Kathy. All those who approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Who was that? I didn't see.
This is Bob Biltz.
Oh, yes. What is your concern with this? I'd just like to address that.
I find number 1 redundant. I'm concerned about how large the board is getting, and I don't, if anybody wants to be a guest, you've never denied public participation in attending the board meetings. I don't see it just seems to me to be redundant.
Thank you, Bob. We still
you don't have to convince me. I mean, I go by
right.
rule.
The motion is still carried, but I did want to note the opposition. I think it's good for us to understand what that may be. So The motion still carries. The update to the bylaws has been approved. And with that, I'm going to turn this back over to John.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next voting action, agenda item number 6, is to approve our 2022 board and executive committee meeting updates. So this was actually looked at and voted on in the by the executive committee, but the precedent we had in place was that once the executive committee looks at it and approves it, then it comes to this body for a final vote. And so there's really no change to our methodology. It's the board meetings are every even month, second Thursday of the month, and the executive committee's meetings are on odd months, again, second Thursday of the month. So again, the executive committee did approve and push this forward to this body for a vote. So with that, I will turn it over to our chairman.
Again, any questions concerning the dates for the meetings? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting dates?
I make a motion that we adopt the meeting date.
Thank you, Beverly. Do I have a second?
This is Destiny. I second.
Thank you, Destiny. All those approve, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, hearing no opposition, the meeting dates have been approved. With that, we're going to turn it over to Howard to bring us up to date on the financial report. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. I hope all is well. So the financial, excuse me, statements we already sent you earlier week. So for the South Central, this is our 5th month for the month where the financial was we're looking at. It's very necessary to know our fiscal year starts in July and it ends in June, because some of the variances we will explain, and then you would know better understanding for all of us to know to what's going on right now. So after the last meeting, state gave us the allocation for the next 12 months. That's the fiscal allocation, and they switched some of the buckets or the from that they gave us more money dislocated than what we expected. And then, but less money to use. So overall, it was the same, pretty much close to the same amount what we're expecting. So there's no loss there, but the switch, some of the numbers may have changed from the last time what we presented to you all. So the year to the total overall close to $2.5 million WIOA dollars and some other grants funding we received from the state. Year-to-date budget, what we have 1.2 million. That's a surplus and deficit summary. The first sheet, please, not the second. Yes, thank you. So the second is a 1.2. What year-to-date budget we're expecting for first 5 months? We spent 1.1, and the revenue. Just a variance with a $1.1 million. But the one thing, since we got the allocation in October, so it's not uncommon, and all our grants are the cost reimbursements program. So there's no risk there for the revenue, and we will collect, and hopefully the way we are managing, we fully spend the money as well. The sub-grantee, the budget right now with the various grants, $1.5 million annualized budget, year-to-date 819. And they spent or submit the billing based on 730. So 88 is kind of favorable, but that's the timings what we are missing there as well. So there's no risk in terms of the not using the money for the sub-grantee as well. The board expenditures, $1 million total. What we are projecting, our budget, we have budgeted originally $436,000 year to date and $387,000 what the board spent in the first 5 months. So it's all good that the expense-wise we are behind, very precautious about the revenue and the cash flow and what have you kind of thing. So the overall expense is favorable, 137, revenue unfavorable 93. That provides a $43,000 positive variance in the bottom line. It means that both the staff were very precautious about spending because of the timing. Some of the grants, we did not have the final executed contract until October. So we were slow. The subgrantee was slow, as well as the board expenditures were slow as well. But for the year end, we are projecting that we'll use the money, would not leave any grant unspent, that we have to give the money back. So that's the solid plan we have. But at this point, the expenditures and the budget as compared to is favorable as well. No notice there. Any questions, any concerns? And the next sheet statement of financial position is just what we owe to the vendors for the month end, for the 5 months and receivable from the state. So it's very basic balance sheet for us, because we are dependent on the state to reimburse to our sub-grantee or our vendors as well. So that's the amount we owed to state and our vendors as well. So normally, because all the cost reimbursement program technically should not have any surplus or deficit, so therefore we don't see any equity built in up to this point for the WIOA funds and all that stuff. Any questions, any concerns what is presented up to this point? And there's another document we sent, and that's more detailed to justify the vendors and expenses and what have you. So you could review, or you already have reviewed that document, but just to substantiate the presentation for expenses, so you can see the list of the vendors and how much is spent in each line and what have you, just to be transparent with the board and presentation. So there should not be any questions. Any questions come up in the future, please let John know, and if you would circle back with me and we'll respond it back on a timely basis.
Khalid, if I could, in a related document that we sent out to you, this is new. We presented it in October, and now it's going to become a regular feature of what we send you. Is we're sending you, for this program year that we're in, we're sending you kind of a county by county and program update on where we are in expenditures for each county and what types of programs we're supporting. So that's a spreadsheet that was sent out to all the board members with this packet. And so this is something new that we intend to send every board meeting, so that you kind of have you can kind of see how our spending is going on a local level in each county, or with programming as the year goes along.
Right.
So you got to vote.
Yeah, I think that's a great tool to be able to see how we're spending that by county. I think it's a great addition to this report. Anybody have any questions concerning the financial report? All right, do I have a motion to approve this, the financial report?
Robin will make that motion.
Thank you, Robin. Do I have a second?
Oh, I got him. All right, I'll talk to you later.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Beverly. All those approved, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, the financial report has been approved. And upon completing that, that takes care of all the actionable items that we have on the docket today. So I'm going to turn this over to John, and we can start discussing our strategic goals and see how we've done so far this year.
All right. No, not yet. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So very quickly, for those that are new to our board meeting and the process that we follow, we in our agenda, we take care of all the business items and voting actions up front, and then we usually spend the latter half or so of this meeting to really go over our strategic plan and how we're meeting the 4 strategic goals that we've laid out. This is a methodology we're very proud of. We write a strategic plan, and then we try to live by that strategic plan. We don't let it rest on the shelf. So the organization of the content that follows is along those 4 strategic goals. There's 4 of them. We'll provide an assessment of where we are, and then we're going to get into some of the data and storytelling that I mentioned a minute ago. Brian, if you could go forward a slide. So I just wanted to just put a few things in context. this was a very busy year. And if I could sum up this year of 2021, it'd be in 3 words: transition, evolution, and growth. You know, at the beginning of the year, there was quite a bit of leadership change. You know, I was fortunate to be able to take over from Dr. Boone. You know, we had a chairman change between Ron Sow and John Conrad. My elevation to the president's role created an opening for a VP operations, and we were fortunate to be able to hire Brian. And then this fall, we brought on a new one-stop operator, Frank Garabato, to help kind of oversee and manage our customer service and operations inside of our Kentucky Career Centers. There's everything you see on the screen is a heavy lift, was a heavy lift for us. And I won't go over each one of these, but these were major time-intensive things that we had to work on and get done this year. You know, I will say from a personal standpoint, I've been on a huge learning curve this year, taking over this role. You know, mostly ups and maybe a couple of rough spots for me, but I learned a lot nonetheless. And really, for the whole organization, where I would, you know, what I would describe is we've had a lot of growth as an organization, and we really kind of sharpened our sword, if you will. We've always been a very open, transparent organization, but you know, we've moved along the lines of presenting you this kind of county by county breakdown, this kind of in progress spending report. That was a big deal. That was a heavy lift to put together, and now we want to, you know, keep presenting that to you. We have really all summer long, we've been tracking this labor force participation issue that's kind of worsened and worsened. And early in the summer, you know, the pundits were all speculating that it was all about unemployment, and as soon as that extended unemployment benefits went away, that the problem would be solved. We had our doubts about that, and we went ahead and in the summer started planning for a workforce summit that focused on this. And so, you know, as we reported at our last board meeting, we ended up conducting 4 town hall summits across the region in the last week of October, really trying to key in and focus on workforce participation and try to develop local solutions to address this issue. And so we got the results of that will be published out this week, and you'll see the results of that. And then on the heels of that, you know, Judge Buchanan has kind of organized a local workforce participation working group, and I'm going to wait till the end to talk about that. But that's there's a local working group that's really continuing what we started with the workforce summits. We're continuing that conversation locally. It's a little bit oriented on Warren County Bowling Green, but the intention is to build out some of those plans of action and then build that out across the region. So I'll talk to that. I'm going to save that to the end, and I'll talk to that in more detail at the end of this thing. So anyway, we're going to move forward, and again, we're going to get into the meat of this thing. So Brian, if you will, and I think I keep this, right? So strategic goal number 1 is really our employer-focused strategic goal. If you go forward, you know, this strategic goal, and I'll just orient everybody to how we do this. This strategic goal has 5 supporting objectives that you see on the left side of your screen. There in the black text in the middle, second quarter activities. These are some of the big things that we did in the second quarter, October through December, focused on this goal. Over on the right in the blue text are what we anticipate doing in the third quarter, this, you know, January through March. In between is an assessment. The red, amber, green assessment, the black dot represents where we were on January 1st of this year. The black arrow corresponds where we think we are and the progress we've made throughout the year at the end of December, and the blue arrow represents where we anticipate being at the end of March. So, all right, let's go forward 1, and I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
Okay, all right. Well, good morning, friends and allies. And if you were not drawn in by voting on bylaws and looking at financials, we're going to draw you in the rest of this meeting, so buckle up. We do want to highlight employer engagement and show just the breadth and depth of what's happened here. So you can see on the screen, and we want to keep in mind with our timeline, you'll see that happen on several of the screens that will advance. real quickly too, and I put a comment, everybody should have received a document now if you've joined in your inbox. That is going to be what we'll use to guide the rest of the discussion, because we're going to flash a lot of numbers, but we really want to focus on the storytelling here today and the individuals impacted. So as far as businesses impacted, we've had roughly 900 unique engagements with employers, and you can see we're better tracking, as John was mentioning earlier, the amount of hours staff are investing, more or less getting out of their office or getting tuned in among our 10 counties with their specific needs. So we're tracking nearly 1,500 hours year to date for that. And then we've had 11 job fairs, 633 that we could track, that 10 of those with, again, best we could track, nearly 170 hired. But that top purple, darker purple one there, I mean, we were without some business service reps, dedicated staff for a large part of this year. And so we've got those in place. I want to introduce Brian and Layla. So if their cameras are on, they can wave and you can see their names, but they'll be coming to you as a business, hopefully, and ready to take your requests. And you are certainly welcome to encourage employers to reach out to them. So the next slide here, just to show a highlight, specifically with this WIOA program funding that we have been able to make happen for 31 employers that were gracious to host a WEX, an OJT placement trainee. And so you can see that there were 24 employers that hosted one of these interns, one of these WEX, what we'd call them, and 6 that hosted an OJT. And some of those are the same number, some of those are the same individual. They could have converted from a WEX to that OJT, and that's what we certainly love to see, is that employer retains that individual. But you can see the amount of dollars that, cost savings come into the companies when they have these opportunities. And so we also want to formally extend an offer that if you are already not engaged with us in this manner, that we are looking to expand our reach, particularly in some of the counties we've not regularly had WEX opportunities. We want to be able to have a base and choices in every county for participants that we serve here in 2022. So we've done phenomenally. This is where, again, a lot of the WIOA dollars are spent, and we want to increase those opportunities. So before I go into the next section there, is there any questions anybody has about our outreach to the employers, or specifically about these WEX OJT opportunities? And Brian and Layla will be your contacts for those as well.
I just want to point out that this is a combination, not only WIOA dollars, but also some of this special COVID grant money, the NDWG, what we would call NDWG in-house National Dislocated Worker Grant. We normally would not be able to spend, save employers $193,000 on internships. That is largely a function of this National Dislocated Worker Grant, where we can spend a lot more than a couple $1,000s on an individual. So that's not normal, but we have this money right now, and so we're using it the best we can to help our employers.
All right, so we'll move into strategic goal number 2. That's our education, post-secondary focused and training focused goal. So again, to flash up our assessment, I really want to draw your attention here and to the starred items there at the bottom, 2D and 2E. This is where we think we have a lot of potential coming up here in the days ahead. And so we have been heavily involved in trying to get a new career pathway for one of our K-12 partners, or several of our K-12 partners, off the ground here, specifically to do heavy equipment and have a heavy equipment operator pathway for a large amount of construction going on. I mean, you can't drive anywhere in our 10 counties, or probably outside of that, without seeing construction and growth. And obviously there continues to be a huge amount of economic development announcements throughout our Commonwealth. And so things have got to be built, and we've got to have people to know how to drive that equipment and operate the machines and oversee that. So we have a huge amount of effort and collaboration that's gone into that. We're waiting to see a grant that we submitted, a significant grant that would operate or allow us to purchase and operate basically virtual reality equipment, simulators that would allow youth to be able to get onto these things at the high school level, and then be able to transition from graduation, or once they turn 18, to the real trucks and get that sense. But these things are very, I mean, it's gonna be phenomenal. These are high-end pieces of equipment. So again, we're waiting to see a response from that, but that will also have legs to be able to provide opportunities for adult participants for career change opportunities, or those that may have some familiarity. But we've struggled to get kids from ag backgrounds because there's been less of those to pull from for these industry positions. And so we're hoping that this reaches youth where they're at and shows them the lucrativeness of these careers. And we'll show you a highlight here in a minute for just one person that may have this opportunity. So, all right, so I am subbing, and I'm going to do a lot of talking here for a minute, but Matt Bacon, who was our phenomenal secondary and post-secondary director, is under the weather, but he has provided narrative and highlights. He has obviously been working throughout the year and was hampered in 2020 in the first part of this year to get to students in person. But once those schools opened back up, Matt was there to visit with them. And so there's been 74 engagements throughout the 10 counties. We've had a virtual hiring event that he was focused on assisting with back in the spring for high school seniors about to graduate. Again, that heavy equipment steering committee. And then you guys have heard us report several board meetings now about the mapping of the career pathways and our now signed collaboration with KY Stats to get some better data and information about opportunities, what's going on, and where we can direct that traffic and play air traffic control for people so they land at the opportunities or get more training. But you can see the numbers there too. And again, your accompanying document is going to spell out in a little bit more detail, but 531 high school students engaged and 159 of those offered personalized assistance. So, you know, Matt's been very aggressive, especially here this fall, reaching youth that were not otherwise thinking about going to college. We're not otherwise familiar with the FAFSA. And so this is 65 individuals that he would report to you would not otherwise be applying to college and submitting a FAFSA if it was not for the interaction that was given in our coordination with partners for him to reach the youth. So then we do have a list of the high schools that he's been very active in our region.
Can I just add something there? And this is really, Secretary Link has joined us, and this is kind of a comment to you and to John. So, you know, within the state, within the different cabinets, I mean, even within the education workforce cabinet, there's a belief that, hey, there's all this money in education, and that, you know, in the high schools, you've got career technical counselors, and that anything that we do from a workforce perspective could be viewed as a duplication of effort, right? And so you'll hear that terminology come up occasionally, but I get that, but the truth on the ground is that career and technical counselors are doing amazing work, but they don't usually get outside the school. They don't have those industry or local company relationships that we do. And so it's kind of unique. Matt is grant funded right now, but he's that kind of liaison between chambers and schools and industry. And I mean, he's working those margins and those seams to bring everything together. He's a liaison, if you will, and it's working really, really well. But he's on a grant, and I had to fight really hard to secure grant money this year, the second round of grant funding for him, because the pushback was, hey, this is a duplication of effort. The high schools have money, they have career pathway programs, they can do all this, but they can't do it like we're, you know, they need that kind of liaison person to work the margins and tie everything together. So anyway, it's
specifically with ATC.
What's that?
Specifically with tech.
It doesn't have to be, it's not specifically with area technology centers. It could be the regular high schools, and, you know, we have an ATC here, but he's worked, you can see all the different high schools he's worked also. Now the heavy equipment piece is with the ATC, but he's making his rounds to all these high schools, and basically we just plug in wherever they say they need help, we help, right? If they say, hey, we could use help with FAFSAs and connecting kids to college, then we'll help out there, right? From our vantage point, if it helps a kid stay local and go to school and get that opportunity, you know, and we can retain that talent, we're going to help him. He's also making those connections to business and getting handoffs, and we'll have a story coming up on that in a second.
Yeah, so let me tell everybody about Hunter. So he's with Barron County High School, and the way Matt would tell you this story, and I'm going to do my best to bring it to fruition like Matt would, but I mean, he's going to complete an agricultural career pathway at Barron County High School here by the time he graduates in May. But when he met Matt, he had no idea what he wanted to do, other than maybe being available to help his family farm on the weekends. So after Matt was able to go over cost of living, career pathway information with him, and do some interview prep and complete some applications, do some networking, he was hired by one of our regional companies, Scott and Ritter, after weighing offers from 2 other companies. And so he is going to be hired by them. He'll receive credit towards the completion of his career pathway, start training as a heavy equipment operator, making $20 an hour, and not have to attend any classes his final semester. And then upon completing that this spring, he'll just move right in with Scott and Ritter, and we'll be making almost $50,000 a year. So this is an example, as John was just describing, of even though these pathways exist, there's missing disconnects, right? There's just a gap where people are going to actually just finish high school and go do something else, not related to what they just studied hard to do and got training to do. So if we can better map this out and realize the scale of who is where in these high schools and the numbers, we can bring industry and create partnerships. We can bring colleges. They can specifically target rather than just mail coming in your mailbox. Come to so-and-so place. I mean, you can go right to these classes and right to these students and reach them. So, you know, we're hoping that, again, as John said, we can retain the talent and utilize the talent better. But we're very, very proud of Hunter. And this is just, I mean, this is like a last month development. But this happens literally almost every week where we can have these connections. So, all right, I'm going to move on and allow somebody else to do talking for just a moment. Miss Jasmine, would you come on and introduce yourself and tell us about who you'd like to talk about?
Okay, yes. So my person is Caitlin. She is actually working at Franklin Simpson Nursing and Rehab. She started off as a work experience there, moved into on-the-job training, and was hired on. Before she began working there, she was kind of confused on what she wanted to do. She has lived with her great-grandparents since the age of 4, was homeschooled, and really had never been outside of the home. She basically stayed in her room. So her aunt actually had reached out, saw the flyer, and was like, you know, I think that she would be interested in doing this. So I reached out to her. We kind of did some career exploring and figured out, you know, what was her best move. Since then, she has, like I said, became employed with the nursing home. She enrolled in school at Sky to do like the prerequisites for nursing, where she wants to go to Vanderbilt for neonatal. And right now she's working a COVID unit. So we typically try to get a picture with the participant, but I couldn't get the picture with her. But she really enjoys the program. Like, it has helped her tremendously. She was very quiet when she first started there. She didn't have a lot of social skills, so it's helped to develop those. She's met friends through the program, and it's helped her tremendously.
Fantastic. So there's an example of a young lady that has been tuned into the healthcare profession, and that is desperately needed. So that's going to kind of dovetail into the next success story that we'll have here in a moment. So going into our post-secondary activities. So this is going to primarily be our engagements with WKU and SkyCTC here in this region. This has had 46 engagements with faculty, staff, leaders at those institutions. We have now initiated some memorandums of understanding and some pilot projects with both SkyCTC and WKU. And so we've had phenomenal relationships with SkyCTC, but we wanted to formalize and structure a bit more, have some regular presence for Matt to be on campus and meet with students. And they were all completely on board and just, extra creative. So we're continuing to meet and process the details on that, but that's going to lead to probably getting employers on campus that he'll arrange and have student opportunities to reach out to connect them to those employers and just have his services available for them. Again, in very unique ways that he can connect both sides of the fence, the job seekers in the industry, and he's got an ear tuned in to both sides and play the matchmaker there. And then we're very excited. This just got agreed, but it'll be structured here and more formalized once we get into January. But I reached out to the dean of WKU's Potter College, PCAL, and I'm a 2-time alumni for there. So that's sort of an easy way to get in the door. But, PCAL College of Arts and Letters, that's, sort of not as tech industry heavy career fields, right? Like it's liberal arts. So we wanted to see what can we do to bring some weight to connect people and better keep them here in our South Central region. So that dean was very gracious, and we're going to work out the details with staff to also replicate a way that we can have regular presence and visibility with students in that department. But 88 students have been engaged year to date. You can see that 63 employment referrals were put out, and 31 positive outcomes at least, that we've tracked in those engagements with folks. So one of those, Miss Chandra, this is an alum who was living out of the area, 22 years of RN experience. She wanted to find a supervisory role closer to home and to her family, and so connected to Matt, and he was able to optimize her resume and help her prepare for an interview. She got one. She's been offered a position. The details are getting worked out probably as we still speak here and sit this morning, but she'll be here local. And so this was, I can't give you much more details than that because some of those are going to be reserved for her family and for her to share, but this is, again, just here in the last month development, so fresh off the presses. So, even in career fields where help is not needed as urgently as an RN, seeking our board and this system for assistance is just a highlight we want to share. It leads to higher wages for individuals and meeting the demand of the employers here.
And Brian, she does not currently live here, right?
Right.
But she's going to come back home.
She'll be coming back.
We're helping her find a supervisory position here.
Yes. Yeah. So very, very excited for her and the possibilities that she'll have now. All right, and I'm going to have some info here, but turn it over to Miss Lindsay, and I'll kind of go back and forth between the info. Miss Lindsay.
Hi, Brian. Sorry, my internet cut in and out. I kind of got bits and pieces there. So
I think you might be muted, Lindsay, or we can't hear you for some reason.
Can you hear me now?
Symbol, but
you got me now? Okay. Got it. Awesome. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. So today I want to talk to you, and we'll get into the testimonial, but about the Commonwealth Coders Program. So last fall, as you can see the numbers there, we served 23 counties. It was a combination between the South Central and the Cumberland's workforce boards. And we were able to graduate 28 students through the program, where I can happily say that 24 of the 28 positive outcomes are employed currently. So on the upcoming program, the fall cohort that we're in currently, we actually broadened who we were serving. So we're now up to 48 counties between the South Central, Cumberland's, Northern Kentucky, and the Bluegrass Workforce Boards, which we had a total of 49 students. They actually have graduation next week. So they have made their 6 of being in the full-time role and being in present Monday through Friday. In the South Central regions, we did serve 6 of those as WIOA, and then 6 of them as NDWG, as which John had mentioned earlier. We do have over, the slideshow says 2, but I had good news, 3 positive outcomes throughout the 49 students right now. 5 of those will be interning here in the South Central region. And then if you spread it amongst the 48 counties, we actually have already almost 15 positive outcomes. So that's wonderful news amongst the 48 counties. Brian, if you want to flip to the next slide to give the testimonial. I don't have any audio. But anyways, I'll speak with this. So Jamie Flint here, he is a gentleman that actually was found his way. He's been doing factory work from a forklift operator to a warehouse employee, and kind of had an interest in coding and web development, but was on the spectrum of should I take it or should I not, because 16 weeks is a full-time commitment. And, you know, he took the course, and honestly, he's one of the most shining stars in the class. He's on day in, day out, just really learning the curriculum. And so I wanted to show him or showcase what work he's done. And then another lady, Mayan Thornton, she is in the class currently. She has been a single mom, has raised 2 kids, and has always just worked, you know, from here to there, and just never really had any stable of just an environment of, or just a job more or less. And she will tell you, she's got a wonderful testimony, and she has been so successful in organizing just small groups, small work groups, just trying to collaborate as teams. And she's made lifelong friends out of this program. And she is actually in the process. I have her set up with an interview on Friday of this week with an employer. So she will definitely tell you she is grateful. But I'll hand it over to you, Brian.
Brian, I think you're muted.
We tested this all out yesterday. I'm so sorry, Lindsay. And it played and it did what it was supposed to do. All right, give me just a moment to find my way back into the presentation.
While Brian is looking, I did just want to add on Jamie Flint's testimonial. One of the things that, and if it's on our social media, if you get the chance to watch it, I would strongly encourage you to do so, because as he is speaking, the more he speaks about the program, the more he starts beaming. And the statement that really stuck with me from Jamie's testimonial, he just sort of stops himself and he said, "I'm just flabbergasted that I have found something that I love doing." And I think that is so important to what we're doing to help people find their calling. And that was just one of the things that stuck out to me. But yes, it's on our social media if you want to watch the whole clip.
Thank you, Leslie. So for some reason it wants to display differently now, but yes, we're back here. Okay, you guys can see the screen again. You can hear us okay? Sorry about that. We will get that video out like Leslie said, and it already is, one of those is already out there. So thank you again, Lindsay. So yes, so coming up on strategic goal number 3. Oh, this one's a doozy, increasing workforce participation. This is, I mean, I said it before in one of the other meetings. I mean, this one really is where a lot of our other goals do dovetail into, but specifically to draw your attention to some things here on our assessment slide. We've made, again, some very significant progress, or we think that we will here soon. We have several campaigns going on right now and just initiatives going in to try to develop pipelines, be that with our immigrants and refugee New American neighbors or with recovery centers, and also some exciting opportunities with Fort Campbell. And then, you know, our CARES, our Kentucky Area Resource online portal is, you'll hear about in just a moment too, and Aaron will share, but that continues to take off and gain a lot of momentum. And we have, you know, had some activities we tried this year that we want to push out even more. And one of the things that we began collecting, we kind of were doing it sort of informally, and there's been lots of other players sort of collecting this information, but we really want to get feedback from people that we have interactions with why they're not working. You know, we only know the people that come to us for jobs. We don't always get to talk to the people on the street, or what I would call like the undecided voters, right? The undecided job seekers. So when we do have a moment to be in their ear, Frank, our new one-stop operator, has developed a survey, a little quick way for us to capture some reasons why they're not working, what they hope to do, what would push them into the workforce. And so that's going to be given, that is being given to our unemployment insurance customers. So those that come for that reason, we're asking, but I'm trying to also coordinate with other partners in this region if they can deploy the survey to clients they interact with, and we can have a more collective picture besides just UI participants, why people are not working, and seek to address the needs or hawk the wares of what we're already doing and make them aware, right? So going into, this is probably the most meaty slide we have, right, John? Today, but this just kind of shows, again, in a cumulative 12-month span, the amount of engagements and people we've had contact with. So we did have our direct service contract, you know, reinitiated with Career Team. The career centers did open back up, first by appointment and then to the general public. We did have a new one-stop operator and got several things going with all 3 of those things now in place. But we had nearly 11,000 engagements with individuals this year that we are tracking. you can see a lot of those, over 4,000 of them were people that did come in to complete a UI appointment, but there's another 3,500 that did not have an appointment that came in. So they could have been coming for unemployment, they could have been coming for other things, but we engaged them, we offered them employment services. Now the narrative, if you're following along there, I mean, the reality is not many of them were interested, but they were offered. And then there were several dozen folks throughout our 10 counties that were engaged through what we call our access points. And so looking at this, I mean, we've done in person, we've traveled, we've done the career centers, and then the 745 Career Edge new users in South Central Kentucky is more of the virtual services. That was an exciting deployment we had to use during COVID last year. And it has now deployed statewide. So many more people than 745 are using it, but that's how many we track on our end are based here in South Central and that are getting connected to, you know, opportunities to improve their resume, interview skills, things like that. We have very successfully used that platform with people we have been able to enroll with Wagner Pizer services and with career team services and WIOA services, period. That's kind of a built-in requirement now that they complete some modules on that. So, so you can see here again, just the scope and scale. So as John was saying, as we kind of got into this, you know, how many people do we help get to work? Well, it's harder to track. We know we've had nearly 11,000 engagements and interaction between our focus population outreach that we've done, which that in itself has generated about 1,400 individuals that we've engaged. And you'll hear more about those as we continue to go, but that includes the high school, college kids that we were talking about, so, or adults. And then, you know, we think we can do better than this in the next year and give you some more substantial data to report back on what happened with those. But again, keep in mind, things were not fully in person yet, right? So we still had an 11,000 individual reach. Any comments, questions about that honking amount of data there?
Out of that 3,523 individuals, are they broke down to counties?
We have tracked that by county, yes. We have, most of that has been though at the Bowling Green Career Center, but we did collect information about their county of origin. And that does not include people out of our region. So we wanted to make sure we took those off. So if people came from Louisville, as you'd heard us report other times this year, that's not displayed in this slide.
So we have that somewhere we can see, we can look at.
Yes, we use a sheet called the tracker that staff tabulate this information on. Yes, it's a Google sheet. Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see it sent out to the board because all of us serve different counties, and if we've got that issue going on, then maybe we can do some outreach and see what the situation is, that they didn't want any services.
But you make me think, it's an excellent point, Ms. Beverly. You make me think of another thing we wanted to convey at the meeting today. I want to say thank you to the community partners that have joined in our meeting today too. I know we pushed a kind of a last minute notice out to you, and we've had very great engagement with our community partners, even though they don't always get to attend the board meetings. But we need your help, community partners, to refer folks, right? The engagements that you have and influence you have with folks. So we track it. We can already tell you who, but if we haven't had as many of those coming in here this part of the year. And I know we lost some momentum with COVID, and partners certainly lost momentum and contact, but now that that's kind of being rebuilt, generating referrals, generating leads to some of our focus population staff to help our partners, not to take over, but to assist and to triage those. Yeah, and you definitely need to hold us accountable. If you refer 5 people, what happened to those 5 people? We want to be able to, we can tell you that information, and we want to be able to give you that information.
Yeah, if I could, Beverly, I mean, we can provide that. You know, roughly of that 3,500 that came in, I mean, a majority, probably 80 to 85% were there. They didn't have a UI appointment, but they wanted. Or most recently, there's been a new kind of update to UI where people have to enroll in this new platform called ID.me. It's kind of a measure to you know, to prevent fraud. Had a lot of folks coming in to get help with getting their ID.me account set up, but yeah, I can't put an exact percentage on it, but we think roughly between 80 to 85% were coming in. They just wanted unemployment assistance, but the way the system is set up, and the state has had this in place, you know, for most of the year. You have to have an appointment to be seen for UI. You just can't walk in and get them. You can't walk. So but we still have lots of people walk in asking for an appointment. We say, okay, we'll put, we'll either tell them how to make that appointment online, or we'll put them on a computer so they can make it.
So do they fall underneath the people who
Completed a UI appointment? They don't.
or that group that I think it says the individuals declined employment services assistance when offered.
Yeah.
So they just needed an appointment. They would fall under that group.
We try to have a conversation with everybody, whether whether they have a UI appointment or don't have a UI appointment. We are doing our best to offer employment assistance and make that available to them. And Frank and Mike can talk to this. Some people accept it. Some people will get mad and stomp off and slam doors and just be really angry about it. It's kind of a mix.
The ones that, if they did not get the results they were hoping to achieve with their unemployment appointment, they often are angry and will, out of anger and frustration, turn down the assistance. Sometimes it's just people, I can find a job, I don't need your help, or I already have a resume, I don't need help developing a resume. And it's and sometimes they came for a specific purpose. They really weren't necessarily intended to get these other services. And a lot of the people we see don't need our help because they are already employed. They're just looking to fill in gaps where they weren't employed for a short time. And so but we are trying to figure out a way ourselves to convince people we are there to help and to provide that help as well, without making promises we can't keep.
And I would say that of those 4,000 people who did come for unemployment, there are, on my survey, there are 75 counties outside of this 10 county region that visited the office. Jefferson County, Oldham County, all sorts, and that includes 33 counties from 13 different states.
Okay. It's messy.
Yeah, but I want you to break down for the 10 counties.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, thank you for that point, Mike, about some of them are working and sometimes they're just being laid off. And so they have the eligibility to get to claim.
Well, and even just yesterday with the new ID.me thing, we had several people schedule appointments 2 weeks ago to come in and just talk to us about what they need to get registered for ID.me. And one of the first things that I wish we'd have known this sooner, because you didn't need an appointment for that. We could have helped you with this, and then we go on and help what we can. And a lot of people, it's just take them over and help them get registered with ID.me because they are currently employed, but they know that they have a seasonal layoff coming and they want to be prepared. We really appreciate that.
Okay, and then there was another question with the coding. If 28 went through Commonwealth coding and 24 are working jobs, what type of jobs do they have? And it's in the related field of training.
Miss Lindsay, were you able to hear Miss Beverly's question about what type of jobs those 24 are in?
So most of those positions, the students that are graduating, it is, they're gearing towards web development, right? So, but it's a broad spectrum of what job placements that they can be in, meaning they can be in development, they can more so go into graphic design, they could go into we have some that help with e-commerce. So it's still a platform that they're utilizing with the web dev. We have folks that become entrepreneurs. We know we had one that started her own POS consulting business out of it. So she was able to grab the knowledge from the class and apply that to her being an entrepreneur. It's kind of a broad spectrum, but the main focus of the curriculum is web dev, but the possibilities are kind of endless.
Yes, but how many are coders?
Coders specifically, from the 24 that come out of that, I know at least probably 17 are in a web dev coding positions. The others could be in a graphic design, but yet you still are coding because you're still using the platform of Wix, or you're using, you're still having to do some kind of coding into that. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay. Excellent questions. All right. Oops. Let me get to re-entry here. So, boy, this is another program that deserves much more than the time allotted on the on the agenda that we have today. But Mr. Aaron Pointer, would you guide us, direct us through this slide and the next two?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Aaron Pointer. I'm the Director of Reentry Programming for the board. What you're seeing is just kind of a quick snapshot of the activities that have went on. And that's one thing I love about my job and my employment is if there's never a dull moment, never a not busy day. But you can see some of the numbers that I have posted. And really what I want to explain and my two success stories that I'm going to share with you all are really a snapshot of what goes into that 60 employment outcomes that are heavily tracked, those heavy touch kind of step-by-step basis. And once we get into the success story, I think you're really going to get a clear picture of the workload that would go into that. Now, is that just saying that 60 individuals received employment? Absolutely not. And I think we can safely estimate much higher percentages of that from our quick engagement, some from our quick referrals, and from the connection to other partner employers. But I really want to highlight and point out, when you see that 60, really take a moment when I go through these success stories, and that will give you a snapshot of what really goes into that number, that 60 number. Now, you can also look down through there and see the estimated economic impact as we go down through there. And we're being successful. We're being noticed. And of course, we've mentioned that all through board meetings as we've come along. So I want to go ahead and get into the success stories. This is Rob. I was fortunate enough to meet Rob, and he's got an amazing story, and I'm so excited to share this with you all. He was released from federal custody on June 3rd, 2021. This individual served 20 years in the federal judicial system. He was released with limited resources, limited context, and a limited direction. I actually spoke to him this morning. He called me just to touch base with me. His wife passed away very close to him getting out of prison. So he walked out on June 3rd with nothing. Rob heard about our program, and he was able to get in contact with me and said, hey, this is what I want to do. He needs a fresh start. And I met with him on a Saturday morning in November. So what he was doing from June to November, I don't really know. But we met in November, and we got to work immediately. The following week after I met with him, we discussed a lot of the programs and opportunities that were attached to working with us. And he wanted to go and get his CDL training. For a lot of people, that's really easy. For Rob, we had to get approval from some high-level individuals because, again, he has been incarcerated for so long. There are stipulations to things that he can and cannot do. We got that approval from the powers that be that he was able to seek a CDL training. Then the next hurdle was we had to find an employer that was going to give him a shot. We were able to find an applicable employer, and he has been hired. He's got a letter of hire, and he's going to be making $88,000 a year when he graduates the CDL program in early January 2022. He started class on November the 29th and is doing the best. I talk to him multiple times a week, but here's the deal. So the training class is, it takes the place of a full-time job. So I've also had to recruit resources and connect him with other resources in the community to help out with the rent, because he has devoted all of his time to the training and to doing what he needs to do. And already coming with limited resources, no savings, no real way to blend that line where other individuals may have help with that. That's quite a hurdle, but we've done that all together. And again, he was headed to class this morning when he called me and just touch base with me. So we've been able to help him with rental assistance, gas assistance, and food assistance while he's working on that. And like I said, he's going to graduate in early 2022. And his training was funded through WIOA dollars. So that's a snapshot of Rob, and it's that's really one of the stories that I'm really proud of. But I could have took any of those 60 and told that story. So I have another one as well. This one, it's if Murphy's Law really applies to Dave's story. Anything that could go wrong did go wrong with this, but Dave was located in Hart County, Kentucky, and he was couch surfing. He heard about our program because I'm very active in Hart County. He heard about us and he called me one day. Kind of explained he had a long history of dealing drugs, high-level drug dealing. He was originally from out of state, ended up in Hart County, Kentucky. That's where I'm from. So, I mean, hey, it's a nice place to live. But he was unable to find any housing in Hart County due to his criminal record, that nowhere would rent to him. He wasn't applicable for HUD housing because of his criminal record. And he was fortunately able to get a job at one of the local fast food chains. We continue to talk and try to come up with a success plan. But, you know, the lack of housing really eliminated him from being any type of having any type of real success. So I talked with him and we had some contacts in Bowling Green for where, you know, some transitional living facilities, and he agreed to go. We were able to facilitate getting him to Bowling Green and to go meet with one of our community partners for career training and just kind of, hey, I'm new to the area. What do I need to know kind of deal. So he finished up his day. We had talked multiple times that day. And the last thing he had to do was he had to get a COVID test before he could go to the transitional housing arrangement. Told him best of luck. Call me tomorrow. We'll take care of everything else. He called me 30 minutes later, said, well, I just tested positive for COVID. So his housing arrangement was then null and void. Nobody would touch it. So this individual he had a suitcase. He was standing on Broadway and on the phone with me. And we had to quickly work out what's going to happen. So we were able to work together with community partners, kind of everybody come together and find him a temporary living arrangement until we could figure out a more permanent solution. We also had to work out food being delivered because he's quarantined at that point. So we really had to deal with the COVID beast. However, he was able to get through that. He immediately stepped right back into track and right back on the path that we had agreed upon that was going to be the best for him. Talked to him just the other day. He is currently going through one of our community partners training programs where he is developing skills for employment. He also, by way of another program, it has found a permanent living situation that is not transitional. That's something I wanted to point out too. He's not having to stay in a dormitory style living. He has a place of his own that he is able to take full not ownership of, but that's his place. And he's doing the classes, he's doing the skills development, everything like he's supposed to. And really it was a group effort, just like Rob's story and many other stories that I have. It's always a group effort. But one thing I do want to point out, and believe me, I want to give credit to all of our partners, but specifically Dave has said on a few occasions that I or us or our program was the only thing standing between him and going back to doing a life of selling drugs. And we've been working together for, well over 2-3 months. And I just wanted to give you all a snapshot of that. And again, I'm not saying that's anything specifically with me, but it's a partnership effort. And I always say sometimes the individual success is a group effort, but we really have taken the time and these things are paying off. And this, our processes and what we're doing is definitely paying off. So those are just two of the many. And anytime anybody wants to talk about any others, I love sharing the stories. So any questions for me?
I have one, Aaron.
Yes, sir.
Hey, you said Rob was struggling making rent and things like that.
Yes, sir.
There's that farm workers program that could possibly pay him while he's in school. I think I'm right about that. I believe the career team knows about that.
Absolutely, sir. I work very closely with our farm workers program, and he is actually applicable for that. The great thing is we are able to, I'm putting that on the back burner, just to be honest with you. He was actually eligible for a program for extremely immediate help through one of our partners with EKSIP. And again, I don't know what the holidays are going to look like. What is his needs? How long is it going to be before he gets that first check? So I've got that on kind of the back burner to see, like, are we going to need to do any filling in the gaps? Absolutely, sir. Thank you for that.
All right, thank you for your question, Clay. So the second hardest thing, if I hadn't said it already, from our staff doing this job every day and having the impact that they have, is containing how much they can tell you about what they do every day, because there's just story after story like this. So thank you so much, Aaron, and thank you for your tremendous work there with those individuals. So I will share next just to highlight, we don't have a data slide for this, but we did reach about 100 what we would classify as new Americans, so immigrants and refugees here this past year. But so I wanted to share just a story, a representative of how we want to really expand our efforts here with new Americans this next year. So Yahya was from Somalia. He'd been a long time respected employee of a chicken processing facility outside of our region. He'd previously been an active ESL student at Skills U and SkyCTC program there, where he was able to learn and participate in a leadership program, Academy for New Americans is what it's called, run by the city of Bowling Green. And last summer, Yahya lost his job with that company, and he approached the leadership program staff member at the city for some guidance with this UI claim. He got connected through that process to the SkyCTC CDL program. So he was able to quickly enroll, get through that cohort last fall. His enrollment was made possible because of WIOA support and other financial support that he received besides just the class fee. So I knew Yahya when he was an ESL student, and I had an opportunity to interview him. Miss Jessica and I did the internal monitoring this summer, and I was able to interview him about this experience that he had and get his permission to share it. But as he reflected on his unexpected loss of employment, he really was discouraged and down and out. He wasn't really sure what he was going to do, so he really, really enjoyed that CDL program and the support that he got from his instructor, that he got from his case manager, Amy Settles, their career team. He was also very thankful that he didn't have to pay for anything. We had not just the training costs, but the licenses, even the mileage to get back and forth from Bowling Green, where he lives, to Franklin, where the training is held. So he stated to me, and this is where it gets exciting, he makes more money now in 1 week than he did in 2 weeks at his previous job. And he said WIOA 100% helped him. His next goal that he is aspiring for is to be an owner operator. So he not only changed industries, he's full-fledged in this thing now. So he's saving money and collecting some from family and friends. He's in Somalia today, so I couldn't have him come and speak, but he's traveling back and forth. But he was recruited and came through before our current recruitment campaign that we partnered with the city of Bowling Green, that's aiming to attract new Americans who live locally but travel out of the region for jobs. So again, he came in before all that started, but that really is an example of the aim of that effort and what we're trying to do in this next year. And so, like our other focused populations that we serve, providing this transformational career advising requires trusted personal relationships and personalized assistance. So this is the glue that the staff in our workforce system are doing. So thank you for letting me share about him. And I'm going to let John take this next slide here on another focused population, military veterans.
All right, thank you, Brian. Yeah, so I've kind of long worn the hat for reaching out to our military veterans, being one myself. And so here's a snapshot of some of the things we've done this year. I will say that my transition, into this new role has somewhat limited my ability to go out and interact with transitioning service members from Fort Campbell. But nonetheless, we did engage 223 last year. The number of engagements, 20, that's down from what I was doing previously. I was a little bit more active previously, could get over there and engage a little bit more often. But you can see, how did those, some of the ways those 223 came to us. So some of them, there was 177 where is in person because I was there and I was meeting with them. We had 32 people come by way of the kiosk we have in place inside the transition center at Fort Campbell, 8 personal referrals, and then we were able to enroll 21 soldiers into Kentucky Career Edge. We facilitated 3 separate Heroes Make America tours this year. This is the advanced manufacturing program at Fort Campbell. At any given, they run 3 cohorts a year with about 15 students in each cohort. And throughout 2021, we got them over to visit factories, 2 factories in Logan County, 5 in Simpson County, 7 in Warren County. That's just one of the programs that we've partnered with this year to get people over here. There were certainly more that we shared with you throughout the year. Now, the last thing I'll highlight very quickly is we've been working with a gentleman. He's 30 years in the Army. He's down at Fort Hood right now. And we worked with him, and we worked with the Hiring Our Heroes Corporate Fellowship Program. And we got him set up with an interview with Robin at Stuart Ritchie, and he's going to start an internship with Stuart Ritchie right after the new year. And the way this works is he's still in the Army. He doesn't retire until next summer, but he's going to be able to the Army has agreed to let him cut loose and participate in an internship with Stuart Ritchie. It's going to be free to Stuart Ritchie. It's free chicken for them because he's still on the U.S. Army payroll. But he's going to be able to get a chance to learn a little bit about the construction industry, build out a resume, and then if everything works out, perhaps there's a job opportunity with Stuart Ritchie at the end. And if not, I suspect there's plenty of other construction companies in the area that would take a hard look at him. So, we haven't facilitated too many of these this year, but in total, I think he's our 5th one in total over the last 2.5 years. And so we're always looking to, we're always looking for employers willing to take on these opportunities, and I'm always looking for soldiers that will be willing to come up here to do this. So I'll wrap up my my presentation on military veterans.
All right, you got the next slide.
I do.
Next slide.
Okay. All right, let's go forward one. That strategic goal number 4 is really kind of our that's our strategic goal that focuses on our internal accountability, our financial growth, and our making sure that we're providing a good return on investment for the federal dollars that we're entrusted with. You can see our assessment, and let's go forward one, and then we have a Leslie. I believe Leslie is going to present this. Yeah. Leslie, over to you.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Before I begin, I would just like to personally thank the board for allowing me to shift from a full-time position to part-time. That was done as I am the primary caregiver for both my parents. Unfortunately, my father passed away on Sunday. But I'm still the primary caregiver for my mom. If this had been a regular job, frankly, I would have stepped away altogether. But because I believe so much in what we're doing and how we're changing lives and the importance of addressing these issues, I wanted to stay, and the board allowing me to do so in a part-time capacity, it is helping me to still fulfill a lot of functions that I had previously done while also being a good daughter. So thank you all for allowing me to do that. It means very, very much to me. As far as our communication, the social media aspect of communication, we are growing tremendously. We're continuing to grow. And frankly, with social media, you typically experience a lot of ups and downs. Our growth has been pretty consistent. You can see by the numbers that they're going up. The biggest jump has been in our total video views. We've nearly doubled what we had last year. And I think those are all significant. One of the things with growth is I think we're finding a sweet spot in how we're communicating, because social media is just part of my job. Branding is huge, storytelling is huge, creating smooth procedures, and that's communication. When someone walks in the door, signage, here's what you do, everything needs to be clear. We want to make the processes as easy as possible for both the job seekers and the employers. With the summit this year, I have been so pleased with how everything has gone. And I think that it speaks volumes for our communication, because we asked for months and months and months for feedback, for input, for ideas from employers and community members. That shows that we care about what other people are saying. We care about what you're experiencing. And I think getting that message across is huge. We don't want to be seen as an organization that does not interact. We have to be able to interact. So the fact that our numbers are growing, that pleases me tremendously. We're being recognized by for instance, the National Association of Workforce Boards. They have retweeted and shared some of our material. I mean, that's huge. So I'm very excited at what I'm seeing communication-wise, and I'm even more excited about when we present the summit summary and recommendations. Brian and I have contributed a lot of hours, but I think it's really good information. And this will be something that we can present to employers and communities and say, here are some things you can do. It's taken a while to get to that point, but those steps in the process were critical to get good information and to get actionable items. So that's a little bit about communication. We don't want to just continue to tell the same story. We need to be flexible. We need to be interactive, and we need to be relevant. So that is always in the back of my mind whenever I post on social media or create a piece. Would I want to read this if I were not connected with this organization? So that is my focus. But again, thank you again for allowing the change in hours, and I appreciate it tremendously, much more than you all know.
All right, thank you, Leslie. I mean, I think everybody knows Leslie's a rock star. She really tells our story and communicates what we're doing very, very, very well. I'm going to shift gears. So, Leslie was talking about the Workforce Summit, and that has kind of, on the heels of that, has now kind of evolved into a local workforce participation working group. Brian, if you'll go forward a slide. So, our Workforce Summit, as I mentioned earlier, we did it in the last week of October. We did 4 of them in a row. We moved them around the region. We collected input from all 10 counties, and so that we could put together actionable ideas on how to improve workforce participation for employers, how to get community influencers involved, recommendations for state legislators, and then how can we better leverage some of our nonprofit resource providers. So those results are packaged up and ready to be sent out. On the heels of that Workforce Summit, I got basically Judge Buchanan reached out to me, and he really wanted to kind of take this the next step, and let's continue this discussion on how do we improve workforce participation for the region. And so we've locally, we've gotten involved. Tomorrow will be our 4th workforce participation meeting, but right now it's involving Judge Buchanan, the City of Bowling Green, Sky CTC, Western Kentucky University, the Bowling Green Convention and Visitor Bureau. I'm sorry. Chamber of Commerce. And so, so we've been meeting to really kind of build out and build upon some of the things that we developed during the summit, and really want to kind of get the whole community engaged in this effort. And so, you know, as I mentioned up front, although we're kind of meeting locally, we're really kind of developing a blueprint and a model that I hope to kind of bring out and expand out from Warren County to the other counties. What you see on this slide is down on kind of the bottom left half of the slide is really, this is where this is evolved. This is the blueprint that's starting to emerge. You know, this is the skeleton of the plane, if you will. It's not the full plane. And so as you look at this, there's some actionable things that we think we can do right now in the immediate future, and then there's some aspirational things that we're going to have to work towards. Not all of these things are South Central Workforce Development Board. Some of these are very much involve other partners at the table. So I'll just touch on a few of these things that we can do. Get out of the Kentucky Career Center. What I mean by that is, you know, you saw the numbers earlier. We're not getting a lot of people coming into Kentucky Career Center saying, we want help with employment. The traffic's not there. And it's not just employers that aren't seeing job seekers, it's also us that aren't seeing active job seekers. And so we've got to get out and find them. We got to tap into them, figure out where they are, and tap into them where they are. So one of the things that we're going to look to do in the very near future is to start getting our staff out and about a little bit more to figure out where these pockets of talent are and work on getting them back into the workforce. We want to expand our virtual solutions. So I mean, we've got Kentucky Career. It's a great product. And we are right now testing a virtual hiring event platform so that we can run virtual hiring events. And that's something that we think we could do for specific populations or for large events. So that's still being tested and worked out. There's been a couple of kinks in it, but we're working with a career team to get some of those kinks worked out so we can deploy it. Form an employment coalition. So this is an idea that emerged. You know, we unfortunately, you know, we started the year with our career development staff. We started fairly robust, but over the summer we had some losses, and now we're starting to, you know, get more folks hired back in. But for a while there, we didn't have a lot of staff in the Kentucky Career Center to deal with people that did want to come in for employment. And so we started having conversations with partners around the region, Goodwill, Audubon, and so forth, to see, hey, what's a better way that we can share amongst ourselves, so that, you know, if for some reason we couldn't handle a customer inside of our building, could they handle it for us, or vice versa? So that's been an ongoing conversation that's been in the works. Improve partner referrals. So, you know, with COVID and some of the, you know, kind of the draw, we had a little bit of a setback in terms of partner referrals. If we look back at 2019, we got a lot of partner referrals. We had a lot of partners say, hey, I got somebody that needs employment assistance, and there was a warm handoff to us. I think COVID set us back in some of that, you know, some of the relationships. I think there may have been people that turned over, or some of the relationships might have atrophied a little bit, and we're trying to get that kind of reinstituted where, you know, we certainly think that we can, you know, receive more partner referrals. And so we're working on that. We talked a little bit about the Kentucky Career Center customer survey, really trying to understand, if you're not working, why aren't you working? What is holding you back? Is it transportation? Is it childcare? Is it fear of COVID? You know, we really need to understand what the reasons are so that we can really deploy, you know, a way to, you know, to get them back into the workforce. Industry infographics. So this is really kind of led by the Bowling Green Chamber of Commerce. They're working on updating industry infographics, you know, something that really communicates to students and parents and teachers, the different industries that we've got, the career pathways, the what you can make in each one of these. And we're really just kind of supporting them on that effort. We're doing a little bit of the behind the scenes data collection, and we're informing that. Now, when it gets published out, this is meant to be a regional tool that gets deployed out to all the school systems in our region. We certainly want to help with that. Expand workplace tours. This is probably one of the most successful tools that we've utilized over the last year. We really kind of piloted it with our military veteran population out of Fort Campbell. Now we've recently done it with some new Americans. But if you want people to, there's a lot of people that drive by factories or drive by places of work and they don't know what they do. They don't know what they do. And so, tours are a very valuable way of getting somebody to go in and see a place of work and see it and smell it and touch it and feel it, and maybe and develop a vision for what it means to work there. And so we really want to expand on that idea with multiple populations. Fort Campbell advertising. For over a year now, we've had a 43-inch flat screen TV in Fort Campbell, right inside the transition center, and we can advertise your job, everybody's job opportunities. It's branded Kentucky Career Vision, and it's meant to advertise employment opportunities, not only in our region, but I've kind of got it branded so that if other companies in the state would like to advertise on there, they can. We've had a very modest amount of advertising on it. I really want to build upon that and build that out better. External marketing. This is not something that the board is going to do, but the city of Bowling Green and Judge Buchanan and the Warren County are really eager to put some money into marketing outside the region to try to attract talent into the region. So I put that on there as that's as something that they're doing. It's just one of these ideas that's being discussed and worked through in this workforce group. And then regional wage and fringe survey. This is something that that the board has authorized us to do, and we anticipate deploying that regional wage and fringe survey here in the early part of January to get that going. So those are all the actionable things that we think we can get started on. And so we're not completely locked in on it. It's still kind of still a work in progress. Let me talk aspirational just for a minute. And this is where I need everybody's help in the community. One, I'm going to go to mobilize community influencers first. Why are people not working? There's a litany of reasons, but there is this undercurrent of attitude. There's this cultural undercurrent of attitude towards work. It's just different right now. And as a community, we got to start having conversations with people about the value of work. It's not just monetary. There's a lot of good things that come with work. There's social value, there's mental value, there's self-esteem that comes with it. And we need community influencers, coaches, pastors, community leaders, business leaders, political leaders. We need to have conversations with people about why it, what it means to work and why it's important. And so we really want to energize that, and we want to mobilize our folks in our community. And this was a big talking point in our summit, and it continues to be for this working group. One of the ideas that we're aspirational ideas, an employer reverse referral. The idea behind this is if an employer doesn't hire somebody for any reason, can they provide the name of that person and the contact information of that person to us so that we can work with them and we can move. If that company is not going to hire them, let us work to get them placed somewhere else. There's some challenges with that we've got to work through, but we are exploring it. And then very aspirational on my end, I would like at a minimum a part-time person at Fort Campbell to talk to people every day and develop those personal relationships and feed them to us, feed them to our region. And aspirationally, I'd like to have somebody on the staff that can really focus in on this new American population. We've got about 2,500 new Americans that travel outside the region every day for work. They want to work, but they're not working here. But we, to really kind of get after this 2,500, we've got to have somebody that dedicated to this full time that can really talk to them, form the relationships, and make the connections to get them placed to work here. So don't know if we'll get there, but we sure are going to try. So Anyway, I want to give everybody an update on it. Workforce participation is the main, it's the hottest issue. That's the one that's kind of consuming the most amount of my time and my staff's time in trying to resolve this issue at a local level. Again, you know, I haven't deployed this out across all 10 counties, but it certainly is the intent, and you're seeing a little bit of the blueprint of how this is developing right now. I probably went longer than I needed to. I'll pause there to see if anybody has any comments or questions, concerns, gripes, complaints, etc.
I'm just wondering what kind of kinks are you running into with the virtual hire?
It's more on a technical nature in terms of, you know, on the software side, we're not seeing some of the buttons we're not seeing some of the buttons we were supposed to see, and so we're providing that feedback to the software developer, and they're kind of getting some. We're just working through some of that.
And if we do it successfully, we'll end up being the first board that will have adopted this program. So it's web-based. Career Edge is already up and running, but Career Edge doing this hasn't got all the front-facing stuff figured out yet, right? Yeah. So we want it to be easy for everybody that's going to use it. Yeah.
And what we're going to do, Beverly, is once we're getting to the point where before we deploy it, we're gonna test it internally in terms of I'll have somebody on my team act as the employer, load the job, load the interview questions. I'll have somebody on my team act as the job seeker. And then we're going to make sure that this marries up and functions.
I'm familiar with how virtual hiring works because that's all we do anymore through federal. You know, that's we've been doing that for a while. But the other question that I had is, and I was just wondering what our kinks were, empowering the community influences. So when I did a PowerPoint presentation last week, you know, my agency also provided me with talking points. So are you looking at maybe a PowerPoint or something of that nature that these influencers are have in hand along with the talking points?
I think we don't have that yet, but yes, I think that's a great point. I think that's something we need to do.
If I may, Beverly, yes. We one of the concepts that we got a lot of really good positive feedback at during our summit sessions was on a campaign called Respect Works. And that campaign is devoted toward, you know, changing the negative mindset. Bless you, whoever sneezed. Changing the negative mindset that seems to be surrounding work. And our goal is to provide, you know, a PowerPoint, materials, be able to do sort of a workshop type of thing. And also I'm envisioning if we're able to get, you know, to get the cost covered, sort of like chambers have those decals that you can put in your business window. Like I'm a member of this chamber. I would love to get Respect Works decals for different businesses to show that yes, we are addressing this issue. We are promoting respect within our organization, and we are also encouraging respectful behaviors between employers or customers and employees. So that is in the works.
Okay, but I think this is just a little bit differently because not everybody that's a community influencer is able to talk about the program or the needs of the program. But if they have it in their hands,
we'll get that. That will be that will be put together. We've already, it's not locked in, but I've got several people that are trying to organize faith leaders in different counties to get faith leaders together. That's something, you know, if we're going to get that, we're going to get in front of faith leaders, we need to put something in their hands to help them.
Exactly.
To help them. So I understand that, and that's something we'll definitely put together.
One of the recommendations, or several of the recommendations that'll be in that summit summary, deal with that too, just a call to action on community influencers to get familiar with the resources in their backyard. And we'll provide a full list of a lot of those that are going to be easy for them to get connected to. So you don't know what you don't know. Job seekers don't know what they don't know, or individuals don't know what they don't know. People with barriers don't know what they don't know. So we can start to be in the know NBC had a tagline about that when I was growing up, the more you know. We can initiate a lot of these handoffs and referrals and all that good stuff.
I just want to throw that.
No, I appreciate that very much. So I know we're kind of coming up on the end of time, and you know, I know we normally have plenty of time for questions and discussion. I do want to you know, I do want to give some time to Secretary Jamie Link, who's we're really fortunate to have visit with us today. So I'd like to just turn it over to you, and if you have any comments or thoughts that you'd like to share.
Well, thank you all. First of all, good morning. Thanks to John and the board for allowing me to crash your meeting this morning. It was on relatively short notice, but I appreciate it very much. And congratulations. This has really been an impressive presentation, and I congratulate you on your success thus far, and your plans for the future are very impressive. Leslie, condolences to about your father. Very sorry to hear about that. But I've been in this job now. I started as labor secretary in July. And then shortly thereafter, I'm sure you know, we're now merging the Kentucky Labor Cabinet with the Kentucky Educational Workforce Development Cabinet. I'm just off a call with the governor before stepping in. He sends his regards, and he saw that our two cabinets were closely aligned in what we do and what we should be doing, what our missions are. So we have really started to work hard. We have a lot of top priorities right now. Certainly the economy is booming. So there's a lot of opportunity, we think. And I think one of the things I want to do is enhance our relationship with the local workforce boards to make sure we as state government are providing the support and the partnership that you need to support your regions. Secondly, with a lot of the economic development announcements that have been made, and the further announcements that are going to be made, the way I kind of envision it is a holistic approach from primary to secondary to post-secondary education to vocational and technical education. What role can our cabinet play with KDE, with the Cabinet for Economic Development, with the Council on Post-Secondary Education, with the many partner organizations across the state that provide vocational and technical training, and learning from the employer community what they need. You've talked about it here this morning. How can we marry the need with how we build the pipeline and fill the pipeline with the talent and the skills needed to address those employers' needs as they start up their business, as they expand their business. And the call this morning was about the Blue Oval SK project that will be happening in this region, and what an exciting time that is. As a matter of fact, I'm hoping to go to Tennessee next week to meet with a new regional workforce development board that they are establishing to address the Blue Oval City project outside of Memphis. And I want to make sure that, and I told the workforce people that as a University of Kentucky person, as long as we stayed away from sports, that I wanted to work with them in any way we can, because I view both the Kentucky and Tennessee projects as a region of this country projects with some 12,000 workers that are needed. So how can we, obviously we're inherently competitive with one another, but we also need to work in collaboration with one another. High tide raises all boats. So how can we work with them, and how can we work with the local boards as well as the local school systems, KCTCS, the universities, and I feel like my arms aren't wide enough to get around this issue, but working in collaboration and partnership, I think we can do this. And I look forward to working with all of you. I know we're short on time, but I really appreciate you having me here this morning. Of course, I think everyone knows John Pendergrass, our acting executive director for the career development offices. And anything I can do or the cabinet can do to assist you, we want to do everything we possibly can. And we'll look forward to staying in touch with all of you. And again, thanks for having me, and let's keep in touch.
Yes, sir. We really appreciate you spending time with us today. So, time. So John, we were right at 10:30, so I think it's time to adjourn.
All right. I think we can all say this has been a very enlightening meeting. It's nice to see not only what we're accomplishing, but actually seeing some faces of some of those accomplishments. I kind of think it makes it a little bit more real to who we're helping and how well we're doing. So I appreciate John and his team for presenting that material for us. With that, I'm going to, if there are no other business, I'm going to call this meeting an adjournment. And hope everybody has good holidays, and thank you for taking part of this meeting.
Everyone. Thank you.
All right.
Have a nice day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.